Hello, welcome to a second chance. My name is Philip Jones. As always, I'm my brother, Mr. Farrell Cook, and our special guest, Mr. Isaac Berrios Jr. Before we get into this story, just want to kind of do our part in recognizing September 11th. That was yesterday. We didn't have a show yesterday, so we couldn't do it yesterday. So just bear with me, give 15 seconds, and honor these heroes and the ones that we lost 20 years ago. Great. All right. Appreciate that. 15 seconds. Alex, jump right in there, man. The floor is yours, sir.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you, Philip and Safiro, for inviting me today to a second chance. I really appreciate this time to let me share my story. Um, I'm 41 years old. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a one-time kidney transplant recipient, and right now I am looking for a new kidney. I'm currently doing peritoneal dialysis every day. And am looking to obviously, like I said before, get a kidney transplant, a second kidney transplant. Um, I'm very connected in the kidney space. I've done a lot of different. I'm in different avenues. I've worked in the pharmaceutical area, doing some conversations, having conversations with folks, sharing about the importance of bringing kidney disease awareness to folks from all walks of life, to kiddos, to parents, to um, different folks in the kidney space, dialysis technicians and nephrologists. Um, I've shared my story as a transplant recipient. My kidney lasted 13 years. Let me back up and talk a little bit about that story. Again, I was 26 and thought I had food poisoning one night. And when I woke up, I felt like I needed to get some things checked. So I went to a little clinic, like a local doc in the box kind of place, locally to where I live here in Kentucky, about 13, 14 years ago, to check my blood pressure. They were doing free blood pressure screenings, so I was checking my blood pressure, and it was 210 over 130. It was really really high. Uh, didn't have a stroke, but was feeling pretty worn down, pretty rotten, and so uh, the doctor and the nurse practitioner were like, asked me to lay down. They turned off the lights. They thought I was gonna have a stroke any minute, and so they told me to go to the hospital, to the emergency room. So I went to the emergency room with no insurance, which was fun, for about 2.5 days. And they ran a whole bunch of tests and found out, they did an ultrasound, and in the ultrasound found out I was only born with one kidney, and then that one kidney was failing at this time, and they just couldn't tell me why it was failing, but that it was, and that I was going to have to start dialysis. So I started hemodialysis the first time, and walked into the center around Easter of 2007 is when I started that first time, and did um, in-center hemodialysis, and was kind of shook just because I didn't know, you know, I crashed into the dialysis, and I know that's very common amongst people. That usually it's not something that happens slowly, but usually you just find out kind of a little too late. And so I started dialysis for 18 months. Had a lot of surgeries, had like a fistula put in, had a catheter, had a port put in, all these things put in. Um, and over time, like, I found out that my fistula wasn't working, that I had a blood clotting disorder while I was on dialysis, and so had to deal with all of that, of having all being cut up on, and having, 3 different fistulas put in, and all not working. And even to this day, still I don't have fistulas that work. Um, and so I was getting ready this first time around with my in-center dialysis. I was going to get ready to put a dialysis port in my leg, and then then a transplant came about. And so I was fortunate enough, after 18 months of doing in-center hemodialysis, a lady who I went to church with here in Kentucky was willing to test, and she tested, and we matched and had the surgery in June of 2007, and it it took for 13 years. And then fast forward to July of 2020 during COVID times, um, I had gotten sick, and my creatinine and my GFR and just my levels were starting to were creeping up enough where my nephrologist said to me, "You're gonna have to go back on dialysis." Um, so July of 2020 started. I did a little bit of in center before I got a PD catheter installed, and did the training for that, and I've been doing that ever since. And so that's been kind of what I'm doing as a patient. And then professionally, what I've been able to do with my kind of my advocacy and what I've been doing, I've connected obviously with the National Kidney Foundation, and through that, with I've met Edward with Why Not, and I've met the crew with Tafiro and Philip and Wills and everybody. There've been some great folks, and being able to just kind of continue to advocate and get the message out that it's important to talk to folks about what kidney disease is and what to do to prevent it. Um, I've also done so. I'm currently working, or let me speak up. I was working initially um, with the University of Kentucky as a transplant recipient. When I was a transplant recipient, as an advocate, traveling all over the region of Kentucky, talking to patients and helping them understand what the transplant process was like. Um, and just help them kind of refer them to UK as an option for them to get transplants. Did that for about 2 years, and then COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, it was kind of a mutual agreement for me to kind of part ways because of just being immunocompromised. I wasn't able to work too much and travel into those centers because of my being sick, and they not wanting to bring any kind of disease to the patients while I would do that stuff. So I chose, I moved on. But now I work for a company out of California, out of San Francisco, called Cricket Health, and it's a wellness program for certain insurers, specifically geared for kidney patients who may or may not know they have kidney disease, and have that conversation about preventative care, and getting them to partner with a nurse and a social worker, a dietitian, and a pharmacist. And so I work on their operations team as an engagement specialist, and I help to kind of enroll them in the program and kind of give them an insight as to what it means to what this program can do for them, and help them kind of live their best life and stay out of the hospital and those things. So that's me right now in a nutshell. If you guys have any questions, I'm here to take any more.
Okay. I thought Phil was going to start, but he says I always have a million questions. Alex, when you was born, or I mean, just coming up, no one ever told you you had a single kidney. That's
No, right? Yeah, I was born. So I was born as a okay, yeah. So I'll tell more. I was born as a preemie. I was born like 4 months early, and so I had I was in an incubator for 6 months and had a blood transfusion at the first 10 months of my life. So there was a lot of things going on health wise for me. I had a collapsed lung. I had a lazy eye. I mean, you name it. I had a lot of health issues as a baby, and as I got older, those things kind of sort of went away. And then it wasn't until my mid 20s when the kidney stuff happened. So I always have wondered why, like in the 80s when I was born, why they didn't look at the whole body, why they didn't check to see why there
right,
was only one kidney. But when you're a preemie, I mean, obviously the big focus with them is my lung development and my brain development.
right,
So they didn't really look at
right,
my kidneys or my
right.
liver. I mean, so that's kind of what happened. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you said you were 26 when you first got
Correct.
like learned, and you thought you had food poisoning. You go to
Mm-hmm.
the doctor,
Right.
and that's when they told you you were going into kidney failure.
Correct.
Man,
Yes.
that I know
Mm-hmm.
that was a blow. What was you doing at that time? Was you in college, or what was you doing?
I just finished college, and I had moved. Actually, I had finished college a year before, and I had moved from. I was living in Arizona for a year. Actually, I was hiking the Grand Canyon in Arizona in 2005, and then in 2006 when I moved to Kentucky, is when I got sick. I moved here for a woman, and it was here, and I've been here ever since. Um, and so we had just gotten together, and we were newly I kind of took my leap of faith and left Arizona with nobody, not knowing anybody, and moving to Kentucky, not knowing anybody except the woman who I was with, and so I'd been here maybe 3 months, 4 months before I got sick, or before I got what I thought was food poisoning, and gotten the rest is history. And then I was in the hospital from almost pretty much the beginning of me moving to Kentucky. So yeah.
Yeah, man, that's wild, man. And then you found out. You said so. You started dialysis in 2007, correct? That's when you
Correct.
first started.
I
Yeah.
want to say it was 2007. Yeah, like end of 2006, early. Yeah, something like that.
And so when you started, they gave you the CVC cast.
They did. They did. Yeah. And
And
that I found out quickly that I had cat a lot of fibrin built up in there. So like it was
yeah.
always alarming, and still doing it. It was still doing it even just second time around too. But yes.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something, man. That's kind of crazy because the same thing happened when I first got my CVC. I had a lot of scar tissue built up around
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I couldn't keep it for a long time. So, and just like you said, they did several surgeries to get you your fistula. I know some people who had fistulas one time, and the fistula was great. I had to have 12 surgeries on my arm, and they had to go up high to do my fistula. And so when you said you had the 3 surgeries, man, that reminds me because I had got one surgery done the same day it stopped drilling. I mean, that
hmm
night I go home, it was
You can feel it.
done.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. I hate
I was
that.
like,
Yeah. Yep. And it's never easy to when you feel it like not you don't feel that thrill or you like and it just or when they
right,
stick you and they stick you wrong and like I remember the first time they
infiltrated.
stuck me, they infiltrated me exactly. Had a huge hematoma, like a massive on
Oh
my arm.
man.
I was like, come on. Oh yeah.
That's why, like before I used to stick myself, man. I had one nurse
hmm
that I would only let her touch my fistula
Yeah.
because
She knew to
of
do.
all the surgeries and blood clots and infiltrations.
hmm
I would only let her touch it. Then I found out how to start doing it myself, and I had
mm
the big gauge needles, and I would do it myself, and then I didn't have to worry about nobody else.
Good for you, man. Good for
Yeah, that
you.
was my thing. Right. But and you said you started on you started on did you do hemo the first time around always, or
I
did you start on
did.
PD?
I
Okay.
started hemo. So the first time around, I did internal hemo for the 18 months, and then got the kidney transplant. And then now,
Okay.
I'm doing it again, and I've done PD the second time.
Right, because I remember when you and I talked for a while, and when you first got on this time,
Yeah,
you were doing hemo,
I
and so
was.
I
I
didn't know.
was.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and I didn't know they was because I thought you were still on hemo till you said that. So,
hmm
so you do the cycler at nighttime right now.
No, I do manuals right now. Actually, I do four. I do
Okay.
manuals. Yeah. So like I'm actually in the process of figuring out like because my levels are all off, my potassium and my phosphorus. My nephrologist is giving me a heavy recommendation to go back onto a cycler, and I don't. I did not do well with the cycler. I felt it was always alarming. I felt very like just once I felt like I was like almost like a spaceship. Like once I got into it and I got connected at night with the cycler, I couldn't really move. Like
Right.
a lot. I have a young child. I
Right.
have pets. All those things. So I just thought it was so much easier to do manuals. But for whatever reason, the manuals still aren't working. I'm not getting the most effective adequacy, and so they were like, "You need to go back." They're telling me I either need to go back on to um, internal hemo or do the cycler, and I'm like, I need a second opinion. So I'm in the
Right.
process
Right.
right now because I don't feel like I should have to make that choice. That's not either here or
Yeah.
there.
Well, when I did peritoneal, and I did it manually because
Mhm.
the cycler wasn't even out when I first started doing it.
Okay.
And yeah, and I had to do. I first started with 5 bags. I mean
Mm-hmm.
4 bags. Then I had to move to 5 bags because I wasn't getting the adequacy.
Right.
So I had to move, and then they started making me do 3,000 size bags, which
Jeez.
extended. Yeah, it started extending, and that's when my peritoneal sac burst. But
Oh no.
yeah, and I did manual. So
Mm-hmm.
so I don't even know anybody else right now doing manual. I know
Mm-hmm.
everybody else doing the cycling now. So
Yeah, yeah. I do the green bags. I do like 2500s, but I
yeah,
do 4 times a day. But I have some red. I've done some reds, some 4.25s too,
okay,
because I had a little bit of swelling, but that's gone down. So I don't know. I mean,
okay.
well, I'm meeting with my nephrologist this Thursday actually to kind of get some conversation started about what some options.
Did they say anything to you about like did you get COVID, which one might have had some
No,
challenges with the new kidney? And they're like, okay,
no,
okay.
yeah, no COVID. Yeah, got lucky.
What what's your native? Just so it's not you don't have a disease. You just had that one kidney, and that was the
So I
kind
was
of
born right. I was
culprit.
born with the one kidney. They think so. Yeah, I missed this part. Sorry. I So when I had my transplanted kidney, interestingly enough, probably 8 or 9 years into my transplanted kidney, I had an acute rejection episode of it failing, and they did a ultrasound, biopsy, and they diagnosed it with IgA nephropathy. That I had IgA, and that's is one of the more common ones out
Yep,
there now for kidney disease. So
yep.
they can't confirm that my native kidney had the initial kidney I had, the one kidney had IgA in it, but the transplanted kidney they were able to find through the slides and stuff that I had IgA. So I guess it's IgA is what kind of caused it to fail, but they're not 100% sure.
What happens with IgA is a slow process
Hmm.
where it can come back and attack the transplanted kidney, and that's what happened to my first one. And so it's a slow process, and if you have a acute rejection, I had acute rejection earlier,
Hmm.
and it made my levels just automatically go up to my normalized level was a little bit higher. And
Yeah.
when that happens, when that happens, that lets you know right there that your kidney function is not like it was.
Right.
And so and that's what could have happened and things like
Hmm.
that. Phil, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was
No, you good. I was just gonna ask one of y'all to explain what IJ nephropathy is. I had never heard of it until we started talking to Brandy. Well, why not? So I'm like, I'm to this day, I'm still sitting there looking like I hear the word a lot, so I know it's not something that just popped up out the blue. It's something that's pretty consistent in nephrology world and things like that. So I know it's not something that's like one person got and now they're trying to make it some big thing. So
Hmm.
one of you guys can kind of explain to that, the what that is, how it starts, the extents of it, things like that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. I can go ahead and do it. So basically, how I understand it, and Tafir, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, um, we create antibodies in our body to fight off infection, and for whatever reason, IgA antibodies, in a way, basically, your body creates or misshapens ones that are like more curve shaped, and they overtake particular parts of the body, specifically the kidney and their filters, and they just attack that. Um, and it's something that like can lay dormant sometimes. You could have IgA for your whole life and not have any kidney issues at all or any health issues, but sometimes something can flare it up and it can cause your kidneys to kind of go whack. And there's other lupus. I know there's people have had lupus with it. I don't know some other stuff. If you can add more to fear, let me know what you know. But
Yeah,
that's how I understand it.
sometimes a fever can react it where you can lay dormant in your body for a long period of time and you can have strep. Any type of strep can activate it and things like that. That's so what he's saying is the high antibodies. So my first transplant, I created these high antibodies. That's why they thought I was going to never get a second transplant because my antibodies were so high for what he's talking about. And that's why I had to do so much plasmapheresis. So did they ever say anything to you about plasmapheresis on this next kidney?
So it's interesting. During my transplant, when I had my when they were trying to save my transplant, they were giving me IVIG, which is
Okay.
kind of
Yep.
which is
Mhm.
very similar to plasmapheresis.
Yep.
From what I understand, I did like 4 rounds of that in the hospital. Probably last, I want to say like it was in 2020, and I
Mhm.
remember like being in the hospital and getting like again like 4 or 5 bags of that stuff, and
Right.
it helped bring it down, but it wasn't perfect. It didn't
Yeah.
obviously didn't yeah.
Right. So sometimes what he's saying is those treatments right there can bring your antibodies down, but as soon as you stop, what happens? The body rebounds back, and that's what happened to him. And
Hmm.
that can be a critical area. But sometimes it happens, and you take these treatments, and it can suppress them, and then
Yeah.
you can keep on going. And that's their hopes, and that's what they're
Of
trying to do
course.
with that.
Right, yeah. So it's funny you mentioned. Did we answer your question, Philip?
Yeah, no,
Oh, cool,
definitely.
cool.
I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So something I have for you, Tavero, is with the high PRA because my PRA is at 100% too. Like right now, like
Yeah.
trying to get a second
Hmm.
transplant, like is every nephrologist is like, yeah, like we can try to get you desensitized and bring it down, but we can't promise you that those antibodies are not going to come right back up. So like I'm at a point where it's like it's challenge. It's going to be hard, but I don't know. What did you find? How did it work for you for your second transplant? Like with the high PRA, were you able to get one?
So with the high PRA, what happened with me was I had to do, and National Geographic showed the documentary to me. I had to do lots of rounds of plasmapheresis.
Okay.
So my day would look like 3.5 hours of plasmapheresis, and plasmapheresis is painful. I don't know, a lot of people, it's because it's pulling the plasma away from the blood.
Okay.
And it's internally, it's painful.
Is
it's
it?
not like dialysis. Dialysis, you can read and chill out and everything. It's not like that. And so they did that, and that brought my titers down. That's another answer. That's another thing what they call the antibodies titers. They call them that also. Mm-hmm. And that brought my titers down. But eventually, my titers kept on rebounding. Mm. And what they found, man, and I'm truly blessed, was they found my donor, Jackie, was giving her kidney to somebody else. And Liz, when they found Liz had a perfect match to me with my high titers.
That's awesome.
And I know. And that's really, really rare because they told me I was probably never going to get another one. So another source for you is to check out Johns Hopkins University.
Okay.
Because they work with a lot of people with high antibodies, high titers, and things like that. And they're not shy with working with them because we got a lot of hospitals out here that won't touch somebody if your antibodies are high. Because what happens if your antibodies are high is as soon as they put a foreign object in your body automatically attacks it.
Right.
And probably in a week or so, the kidney will be ruined. Mm-hmm. So a lot of hospitals don't want to do that. But you have these hospitals like Johns Hopkins, and that's where I had to go to get this because it's kind of experimental. And sometimes, and now we're starting to see it more and more in different hospitals. So that might be another avenue for you all as well.
Thank you. I will definitely look at that, Johns Hopkins, because I'm currently listed right now with UK in Kentucky here, but they don't touch it. So like the likelihood of me getting a kidney, it seems like a far and few between. Like I've been a year on dialysis right now, and I've had 2 people donate or a test right now that have told me that they're interested, and one of them he got as far as the tissue typing, and we didn't take because of my high titers. I think we found out, but so that's where we're at with that. But
this is what you call it's a rare situation because I've seen people have 2 or 3 kidney transplants and they're fine and their titers are just normal.
That's crazy.
When it comes to you and I, these kidneys they can't just put in because of these titers, and we know. And this is a truly a different situation when it comes to something like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead, Philip.
So my next question is kind of get off the health talk just a little bit.
Yeah, man.
When you had to talk with your donor, when she came to you and said, "Hey, let's see if this can work. Let's see how this goes."
Yeah.
Did she give you a reason why she decided to do it?
She just said she felt called. She back like 10 years earlier, she had tried giving a kidney to somebody else in our church, and it just didn't work out. And so she was like, when she found out that I was sick with kidney disease, she's like, there's something there. Like, you came into my life at the right time. Like, I feel like I still need to test for somebody. Like, because she was going to donate to somebody else 10 years earlier. It didn't work. And so she was like, I feel like I called to give this gift. And so she was like, let's do this. And so she was freaking a bull in a china shop. Like, she made sure she talked to the transplant team, was like on it every step. Like, we did it in like 2 months, man. She was quick. She was able to get all of her lab stuff in. We started the process like maybe February or March of 2008. I got the kidney in June. So like, I mean, it was relatively quick. I mean, all things considered, like from when she started her testing to the operating day. Nuts how fast she did it. But so to answer your question, she told me because she just thought she had a calling she tried doing it before with somebody else, it didn't work out, and then is now was able to do it for me, and it lasted 13 years. There's a picture of us. If you look on Facebook, that's my donor Kathy. I posted on Facebook of her and I wheeling into the operating room.
Yes, saw that picture. That's how I found out
Yeah.
what her name was. I put it in the description. But the reason why I asked that question because that's an important question.
Yeah, it is.
Finding out why other people decide to donate, and some people have probably gotten that same itch, that same urge, like something's telling them, that they should do it and they ignore it,
right.
where they don't really understand where that's coming from. And they need to, kind of go through with that urge of wanting to donate to somebody. And sometimes I understand that some people are just scared. They don't know what can happen after the fact. Anything can happen after surgery in general,
sure. Right.
And so a lot of people are scared of those things. Some people have taken into I guess you can call them conspiracy theorists of what happens with transplants and the pre-process to it of people, and here's the thing, I don't want to make it seem like people offering their organs for money is a myth. It is not. There are people out there who do that, and they not necessarily caring about if they save you or not. They more or less are caring about the money. Exactly right. So those are things that you do need to look out for. The one thing that I can say is a lot of these like Facebook groups and things like that advocate for people looking for living donors and things like that. Like they immediately put in their rules, like, we don't accept that, stuff like that. So
right.
It's kind of getting, it's not 100% away from the transplant community, because some people are just desperate and they're like, well, this is the way I can do it. And, I'm gonna do it. But, definitely if you get that urge, you get that feeling, especially if it's somebody you love. If it's somebody you love, I mean, there's nothing really to think about at that time.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, just do it. If it was the opposite way for me and it was my brother and my sister that needed it, I would have did it, immediately with no problem. Kind of similar to Lily we just had on our show not too long ago that donated, 60% of her liver to someone.
Nice.
And originally she wanted to donate it to her dad.
Okay.
But was not able to. But she still ended up going through with it and being an anonymous donor and donating 6% of her liver. And so she's doing great. Talk to her pretty frequently, actually. She just started her new position that she was talking to me at Jafar about on the 30th.
Solid.
She says she loves it. Everything's going well, and she'll be popping up soon again.
Good.
We've been talking and some things I brought up to Jafar and stuff. So, but to people who kind of have that thought and don't know how to go about it, or they just feel like, oh, I want to donate to someone. I'm not telling you to go out there and just find anyone.
Of course, right.
But if you know somebody in your community, someone that's maybe even out of your community that's doing doing good things, helping community, things of that nature, find those people who are trying to, if nothing else, trying to make a difference in the world, at least just trying to do something in general with their life, whether in school, teacher, fireman, anything like that. I'm not telling you just walk up to some random person like, hey man, you kidding?
Right.
Especially when you don't know anything about, there's no type of documentation to kind of tell you what this person is about, or anything like that. But before we go any further, I'm jump into this commercial real quick, and then we'll let Mr. Cook throw about 10 more questions, I think, because I know he's brewing. I can see his face. He got that stone face that I know he's thinking over there, and that's why I like. That's why I'm deprive him from his questions. because I know what they can bring. So
Cool.
we'll be right back.
I'm just intrigued by it.
You said what now?
I'm just intrigued. That's why everybody we talk to, I'm always intrigued.
Oh no, I know, and that's why I said
Good.
I don't interrupt you when you ask your question. Because I know what information is gonna come from it. Me and Cook have two different thinking processes. So mine is more of I think uh not necessarily feelings, but that side of like support. The donors, things like that, and I mean I care about all areas of it,
Of
but
course.
Mr. Cook over here with Kidney Care Coaches is more on the educational side, so he wants to hear, like you're talking about the plasmapheresis and what you did on dialysis the first time, stuff like that. So but it's why it makes it work because it's like I'm doing one half and he deals with the other. So at the end of the day,
You guys
we
are a
see
good
the
team.
full
Yeah, y'all are a
circle
good team.
of
Exactly.
information. So I'm definitely not complaining whatsoever. If you want to ask 150 questions, I'm okay. I'm just chilling. So, we'll be right back. Appreciate you both.
No problem. That was pretty solid.
Welcome back to a second chance, and we're here talking to Mr. Alex Berrios Jr. Got my man Mr. Cook on, and we're gonna jump back into these questions. So, Mr. Cook, handle your business, sir.
Yeah, Alex, I was going to ask you, was the training pretty hard when you went through your PD training on manual?
It took a little while. Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I did it for about a month to 6 weeks, and each session was like the first couple of weeks was like maybe like 3 or 4 hours, and then it was like 2 sessions like per week for 6 weeks, and it was like, and each session lasted maybe 2 or 3 hours, and it was, I mean, I felt like they could have done a little bit better training. I think it's probably one thing. I think they were understaffed, and so I think there was a struggle there with not being able to really give me the time to feel comfortable with it.
Right,
I mean, so I'm my own advocate. So like I ask for refreshers and training all the time
right,
just to
right.
refresh. And I mean, I talk to my nurse, as much as I can, and yeah. I mean, I definitely know that it's important for me to keep the dialysis going and know what I need to do. But sometimes like the aseptic technique sometimes is something that I would get kind of like lax with, and like I learned, I'm like, no, I got to keep this clean. I do not want to get peritonitis. So you
Right,
know,
right, right.
so
Yeah, man. Like I said, everybody we've talked to and everybody recently, I didn't even know anybody who did manual. Mr. Kidney had interviewed me, and I told him I did manual, and he was like,
what?
"I would never do it. I'm so scared." And I was like, and I never had the fear of doing it because I just stayed and I did it for 6.5 years.
Man,
I did get peritonitis 3 times.
okay.
And one time it wasn't my fault, but that's a
Hmm.
whole nother story. But
Sure, sure, sure.
yeah, I did get peritonitis 3 times, but other than that, man, I had good success. But the only thing about it, and this is what we hear about people doing even on the cycler, sometimes when it gets later on in years, because when I
Hmm.
started to get to about 6 year mark, 5.5, I wasn't getting the results anymore. I wasn't getting the clearance, and my body started internally, taking in the dextrose and
Yeah, right.
started absorbing it. And I
Yep.
was like wondering, like, and so we do hear that at times when people have to do it for a long period of time,
Right.
and
Long
we
term.
we,
Yeah.
we we hear about that sometimes. But let me ask you this: since the good thing is you still make urine, how's
Yep.
your nutrition, and do you have any restrictions on fluid?
No restrictions on fluid yet.
Right, right.
I think that I've had a little bit of swelling here and there, some fluid retention in my ankles and stuff, but
Hmm.
for the most part, nothing. Like my nutrition is something definitely could be better. Like I think some of it is self inflicted. Like I probably could not eat. Not It's important not to have, like, I love cheese, and like I know cheese is high in phosphorus, right? Like, and so putting it on like pizza or putting it on like
Yeah,
whatever. Like
yeah,
I just,
yeah.
it's my guilty pleasure, and so I got to be really mindful of that. And that's just an example of like my nutrition. Like I definitely know that I need to be more disciplined. That's to be honest with you, like to be better disciplined with it. But I'm improving. I'm taking steps in the right direction and go from there. Something I wanted to add to you to let you know about. So my peritonitis, I had a bout of it. Um, Back in February of 2020 of peritonitis, right before my 41st birthday. And I found out when they gave me the antibiotics to help fix the peritonitis, I had an allergy to
Mm.
vancomycin. And I have this,
Vancomycin, I know it.
and
Yeah.
so vancomycin, I found out that like basically just opened up my pores, and like I got swollen. My blood pressure, and I'm not a diabetic, but my sugars went off the roof. I had what we call DRESS syndrome, which is a drug
Hmm.
reaction of an antibiotic. Basically, I can't remember what the DRESS stands for, but it's like drug reaction, and then the E and the SS. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's so I found out, unbeknownst to me, that the vancomycin that was supposed to help me with my peritonitis in turn um, caused me to have this syndrome called DRESS, and it's
Yeah.
very rare. It's not very common, and they didn't know what was going on. Like my numbers were all wacky. Like I was on a boatload of like insulin because my sugars were going like 600. Like it's high numbers on the insulin, and I'm not, again, I'm not a diabetic, but it caused
Right.
my because of the steroids I was put on. the steroids made that happen, and that sucked.
And that all came from peritonitis when they gave you the
Yeah,
vancomycin. Yeah,
exactly. I didn't know that.
man.
You don't know that, right? Exactly.
Right. You
Yeah.
don't know some of these things you don't know till you know.
Exactly. I was in
And
the
I
hospital for like a
remember,
month.
yeah, I had vancomycin and I was on a taper with it, but
Yeah.
the last time I got peritonitis, I could definitely tell because I was so keen on it that I even looked at my bag and
You
I
knew,
was like,
yeah, of course,
oh,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So I was like precautionary. I took myself to the hospital because I knew what
yep,
was going to happen. I
yeah,
already, I knew the whole
yeah,
routine, so I was
yeah.
already, prepared for that. But let me ask you this though: are you doing any exercise, anything like that, to keep the body healthy so when you do get a transplant?
I have been, yeah, I've been working on. I just recently did a 3K
Good.
a run, and so I did that, and that was the training for that. But other than that, I haven't done anything since. But I need to get back on
Right.
the horse and start do some more exercise. I'll be honest with you, exercise is important, and walking around and being more active. Now, I just recently moved. Ish. Yeah, I've been in this new place now about six
Right.
or 7 weeks, and so we were living in a full house with stairs, and now we live in an apartment complex, ground floor. We have a dog to walk,
Yeah.
so that's helpful. I mean, any chance to get up and
Right.
move and walk around. And unfortunately, my job is very sedentary. Like I'm working.
Hmm.
My old job was I was always traveling and walking. I was in a car driving, but once I got to places, I was able to walk around and
Right.
move. But my job with Cricket Health right now, I'm doing what I'm doing right now. I sit in front of a computer, type away, and like I'm
Right.
just sedentary for 8 hours a day, and I don't like that at
Yeah.
all. So
Right. So the reason why I say that, and I tell a lot of patients to keep your body active, is because if they do call for a transplant,
of
your
course,
body will definitely rebound a lot better when you're stronger,
of
and
course,
you'll be able to, have something to fight with. Because a lot of times after the transplant, if you don't have any, some type of muscle, you might not get an appetite. All these
mm,
things that can play a big part. And
hmm,
like I tell people all the time when they, on dialysis and stuff, if you're not throwing up, eat. Because what happens is we start to lose our appetite, and that's when your
yeah,
muscles start to atrophy.
right,
And that's why it's so important to keep keep your metabolism going. Eating some food, even if you don't want to eat, you still have to eat something
got
because
it.
your nutrition, you got to keep your strength up,
I
and
hear you.
that's really critical, and that's one thing I always preach. So I'm glad you're doing the best you
I'm
can on
working
the
there.
exercise thing.
No, I
That's
mean,
what's up.
definitely to fair. Like I think, and it's key. Like I love to talk with you offline about this because, like, I
Yeah,
definitely could use some guidance and figuring out like, you know, when I got my first transplant when I was 28, or, after 18 months, like I was in and out of the hospital after my transplant within like 4 days. It was amazing. Like I was, because I was young, right? I was like,
yeah,
I was
young and
already,
strong.
I was
Yeah,
strong. I was like, okay, let's do this. I'm now
right,
41. I'm older, 13 years longer. So I'm already sensing the my body is not rebounding fast enough, not the same
right.
way. So it's just something to consider and to know to kind of keep moving and, like I said, get exercise. And if it's just walking every day, that's something just to get my blood flowing. But yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely the exercise thing is very important. Like he was out in 4 days. I think Mr. Cook was out around the same time after his first transplant because he was pretty active and stuff like that in the weight room and stuff like that all the time playing college
Yeah.
ball and even after being on dialysis for a small amount of time if you have to. Um, your muscles and stuff like that won't go away so quickly. Even if you are in center and sitting in
Yeah.
a chair, especially if you're able to pick back up at least halfway of what you normally do exercise wise,
True. Yeah.
just to keep your body in shape.
Mm-hmm.
I got sick. Well, I mean, I got sick when I was 4, but I had my transplant when I was in high school.
Okay.
It was on, I consistently was in the weight room, on the track, on the field,
Right.
for four straight years in high school. So, I was fortunate to get my transplant 6 months after I started dialysis. So,
Nice.
and I didn't have to do in-center hemo, which definitely helped. I was able to do PD at
Mm-hmm.
home
Good.
continuously on my same regimen, football and weight room and things like that. So see, for me, it took 6 days, but that was because they didn't wait till day 3 or day 4 to tell me that if I don't get up and walk,
You're
then I
gonna
wasn't going home. And
right,
I'm
right.
like, you waited 4 days to
Tell
tell
me
me
this.
that?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I would have been up walking 3 days ago.
Exactly,
You would have told
exactly.
me this in the
Yeah.
beginning. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, because I was fortunate enough to not have to deal with a lot of pain
Good.
when I had my transplant. I had this one small area of my incision, and normally your pain goes kind of this way, surface wise, lengthwise. Mine was lengthwise, up and down. So from surface going into my body, but it was a small area, so I didn't have to deal with so much pain. I was still able to do some moving. When they told me that, I was like, hey man, where's the physical therapist at?
Yeah.
Like we need to get
Let's get going.
going. And
Right.
my original stand up was a little painful because it was that original kind of stand on your incision.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I think me and Mr. Cook had this conversation before. When you have that transplant, you're being sewn up, so they pull your skin together. So when you
But they
sit
cut the
up,
muscles. They cut the
Right.
muscles. Anytime
right.
they cut those core muscles,
Yeah.
to put a kidney in, those muscles are separated, and it's quite painful when you got to get up or any type of movement. With a catheter in, you got the pole. You got,
Right.
it's a lot. That's a lot to do.
It took me like, I got my kidney in June of 07. I had maybe 6 total weeks of like complete recovery. Like, at home, like I started driving probably 6 or 7 weeks later, I want to say. I remember, and with my first transplant. And so, yeah, no, but I was eager to get up and move around. Like I said, I got out of the hospital relatively fast. Like I wanted to get out and move, and just like I did laps around my transplant center, and on that floor, like for craziness, for just to get out. And I hope to do the same thing the second time around. It'll happen.
I believe you will, man. Especially both you guys. Like once it happens, like I tell the story of when I got my second transplant, man, and I was on dialysis for close to 12, and I used to walk around this park, man, and I walked around the park after my transplant so fast that I did it again. I had so much energy.
Yeah.
It was scary. Like, wow, what in the world? Like they put
I cannot wait
battery.
for that. Yeah, battery or something.
They
Yeah,
put
right.
another battery in me.
Yeah,
I was ready to go, man. But
I cannot
let
wait
me
for
ask you
that.
another question.
Yeah.
How's your support system and everything?
It's good, man. It's good. I have, like my family, I grew up in Connecticut, was there most of my life, and then I moved out to Arizona and then to Kentucky. So my support system has definitely is better this second time around. I'll be my first approach when I got diagnosed with the native kidney disease and all that stuff. I was, with this woman, and she was helpful, but she was also a hindrance because she just wanted to kind of take the reins. And my family was far away, so they couldn't really come in and help as much as they could. And so it was challenging the first time around. I'm now in a new relationship, and with the woman, and her family's here locally, and they have been like spot on. Been phenomenal. Like it's been really good to have them around, and like I have a nurse practitioner who can she has friends and nephrologists and things, can call medicine if I need it. I mean, this is really, really helpful, encouraging, distant, will kick my butt if I need to get up and move, that kind of stuff. So it's improved much better than it did the first time around.
Excuse me, that's good to hear, man. That's wonderful.
Yep.
So you said the first time that you were dealing with kidney issues and stuff, you said you were in Arizona, or were you still in Connecticut?
I was in Arizona when it first started, actually. So the very, very first thing I could tell you that was kind of off, that I look back at this now, my whole journey with kidney disease and being where I am, is I went to go give blood. I was a big proponent of wanting to offer blood at blood drives all the time. So I went to a blood drive at the Red Cross in Arizona right before I moved to Kentucky. And so I was in Arizona getting ready to go talk to the nurse, and they take, like, if I remember correctly, they usually take a little bit of your blood and put it into some kind of like solution. And if the blood floats to the top or sinks to the bottom, something has to happen. If the opposite happens, then you're not able to give blood because something's up with your blood. So whatever happened between that and my blood pressure was elevated, they're like, I'm sorry, you can't give blood. And I was like, what? And I had been giving blood forever. I was like completely like, no, I was upset. I was like, I love doing this kind of stuff. Why? What's going on? And that was the very first sign I should have realized something was up with my kidneys or something was wrong. Maybe not my kidneys, but I
Right.
should have checked on it. And I held on to that or I didn't realize it until like 6 or 7 months later when I was crashing into dialysis, what I thought was food poisoning.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in. I remember I tried to give blood because I didn't know the requirements and rules and stuff like
Yeah.
that to giving blood and times. Time you got to wait after having certain procedures and things like that.
Mhm.
So, um, we ended up having a blood drive. Like I said, I was 17 years old when I had my first transplant. So the one thing that I did that nobody honestly, a lot of people in my family didn't think I was going to do was go back to school to get my diploma, and finish my
Yeah.
senior year and stuff like that. So summer, I remember they posting stuff all over the place. Hey, we're doing a blood drive and this and that. And I'm like, all right, well, somebody was fortunate. They had to get transfer blood to me during this procedure at one point, and somebody had to, sit in this chair and do it themselves. So,
Yeah, the favor.
I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I I remember going, and they asked you on the paper, like if you've had, any type of transplant, around 6 months, I think it was like 6 to 8 months or something like that.
Mhm.
Uh, then you can't do it. I mean, of course, I checked yes, and just I stayed anyways. I said,
Yeah.
well, maybe my time, has been further along than for them to give me a okay. I was persistent like you, like
Yeah.
and so they looked at me and she was like, "So you had a transplant?" I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "When?" I said, "February." And she looked at me and she was like, you could tell she was kind of conflicted because she wanted to.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
she understood kind of where I was coming from.
Right, but she had to. Yeah.
But then at the same time, and this is why I'm not upset about the situation, because at the end of the day, no matter how my feelings are, it's her job.
Yeah. Exactly.
So she still has to uh
Abide by certain
take on
rules.
those
Of course.
repercussions
Yeah.
at the end of the day. If
But if
she
you had a blood transfusion, can you still give blood? Because I've had
I
so
did.
many blood transfusions, I wouldn't even think about it.
I
man,
had
I've
blood
had so
transfusions.
many,
Yeah.
and
You
I've
still
given
gave
blood
blood?
before.
I did too.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Good to
I've
know.
given
Okay.
blood before. Even after, like I said, I've been going through this stuff for the past 28 years. So, I've given blood, plenty of
Okay.
times. If that was an issue, they would have caught that, years
Okay.
ago. I
Right.
had procedures and tubes placed and all kinds of things at 4 years old. So they, all that stuff definitely would have been caught if it was an issue. Now,
Exactly.
if I can at this point in time, maybe a different question,
Right.
because everything else that's happened, with the rejection and meds. I've had the IVIG as well, and
Mhm.
all that type of stuff. So, but my question, I want to come back to the IgA nephropathy,
Yeah.
because you mentioned, Mr. Koo, that strep can bring this on. Is this something that, like, is IgA nephropathy something that gets? Let me see, how can I form this the right way? Something that is, I guess you could say, noticed at an early age or more of a later age.
Are you asking me or are you asking Alex?
Yeah, you.
Um, I think what happens is they don't know these things until they know. These are the situations where um, no one's going to check you for these things until they come up. So they don't know offhand.
So true.
So sometimes, just like Alex said, he didn't know he had one kidney. Well, they're not checking for that. They're checking for his lungs, his heart development, all these other developments, and some of these things they don't know. Just like I had a fever in my senior year, and I couldn't even play a couple games of high school basketball because of the fever. and then the following year, I get glomerulonephritis and stuff like that. The point I'm making is this: they don't know these things until they know. So they don't have a magic crystal ball. But once they do know about them, that's when they try to be proactive and take care of these things. So that's the best way I can say, as far as what can happen. I just know that with these situations, inflammation flare up, which could be like strep, anything of these sorts of anything like that can create these things, can wake up these things that might lay dormant in somebody's body. And that's what can happen. I do know those things for sure.
So the reason why I asked that is because post strep is my reasoning for uh, kidney failure. And
That can
so
happen.
if that's something that, is one of those things where it's like you said, not known till it's known,
Right.
it's like, oh, it pops up. Okay, no, now we'll see it in some blood work,
Mhm.
which I understand. Sometimes, not all tests are perfect. They may only work after the situation, which is pretty much, I guess, any test because it's not like we can predict it before it happens. Excuse me, but um, definitely something I think I will talk to my nephrologist about. I mean, I'm pretty sure at this point, almost 32, they probably would have seen it by now with all the tests that I've
Well,
had. So,
strep flare ups have created people to have kidney failure. Let me just say that. It's been known. Um, some people have gotten strep and are perfectly fine. Who knows these variables? Only thing I can tell you is when these variables do happen and you do get to the hospital, who knows what they're going to tell you? Just like Alex said, I went to the hospital and they said this, they said
Mhm.
that. I know we've all been to the hospital several times and been blown away with the diagnosis. Like, wow, so they don't know these things until they know. Again, they don't have a crystal ball. They can just whatever these labs show them, that's what they're working with. So,
right.
I guess
Yeah.
that's to sum it up.
Yeah. I didn't find out that I was sick until, I mean, at this point, for the most part, it was too late, but, I was a kid. My mom came pick me up from school, because I started school. I did early start when I was younger. So, I was at school at age of 4. And she was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to pick you up. And you was so swollen, I didn't notice it was you.
Wow.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, that's not good because I've been swollen before and I've even recognized myself. So if you couldn't recognize me and you're my mother,
Right.
Something's up.
Right.
Yeah.
we got an issue. You thought I was another kid just coming to you like any of the other kids, going to
Right.
everybody, mom, like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
like, that's not a good situation right there.
No, it's
Right.
not.
Right.
I'm in
Uh-huh.
trouble. But her and my dad made the executive decisions, the right decisions to take me to go get checked out. When it's happened, as opposed to and you know what I say this before I make my statement. There's nothing wrong with health remedies and things of that nature. You're going to go find other ways to get over certain ailments and illnesses and things like that, whether it's you or your kids. I mean, that's your right. That's your God given right. To of living in this country to figure out how you want to deal with your own health. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think at that moment and the situation at hand would not have been a good time for those ways of taking care of health. At those times, you kind of need uh,
Mhm.
there's nothing but after the fact, especially when you know what's wrong, but not
Well,
knowing what's wrong.
yeah, yeah. I think people, when you first hear diagnosis, when I first went to the hospital, I mean, I went to a doctor, and the doctor told me I had the flu. And what was crazy was, I mean, even before this is after I got diagnosed with the thing and everything. I'm talking about another time.
Mm,
Lord, he didn't even know. My kidneys were shutting down at the moment, and I was backing up with fluid. So, you
mm,
know,
Mm.
again, man, and so you come home, your mom's gonna treat you just for the flu. She's gonna be like, okay, go lay down, drink this 7 Up
Mhm.
if your
Right.
stomach's hurting, because that's her lip of her knowledge, and that
right.
can be the ones
Mhm.
around you. Their knowledge is only so much. That's why it's so important to get these checkups and go to the hospital and build these reports with these doctors and stuff like that, because they can look deeper and see what's really going on with you and everything. So let me
Right.
ask you something, Alex. With this,
Yeah.
and I know you have kids. Is there any way that your
Hmm.
kids can get checked out and stuff like that with the same disease you have and everything?
I haven't really. I have two kiddos, and I haven't really um, look. I mean, I guess I could do that, and I probably will moving forward. Thinking about it, seeing if there's any like just genetic. I want to say that with my son, um, i- we pretty much found out he didn't have any kidney issues, which was good
So,
when he was first born. So I don't think it's anything. And same with my daughter. I don't think um, she has any kidney issues. I think she just has more like allergy issues and stuff like that. But yes, to answer
yeah,
your question, I think that I could probably because as you get older, sometimes you acquire things too. So sometimes it could be something that they could get. So I may still
right,
consider it down the road as well.
yeah, yeah.
It's but good to think about. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, cause like when my parents found out about me and everything, they did a
Full deep
deep,
dive into that. Yeah.
real dive on my sisters and brothers and everything, and found out nothing. It was like,
Wow.
hey,
Yeah.
you're that lucky kid with this, you know. So
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so
Okay.
these things jump generations and all
Sure.
types of stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
these things do happen. So,
Mm.
even with my daughter, she's 10 right now. And,
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my wife's a nurse practitioner. And we talked about, having her looked at and
Yeah.
seeing, but right now she's fine. She's just a little 10-year-old running around crazy.
That's just
But
like my 10-year-old. Yeah, my 10-year-old daughter. Same
yeah,
thing. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But still, you never know what can happen later on and stuff
Of
like that.
course.
But,
Of course.
you know,
Cool.
So I want to touch on something you brought up. So far as is the rapport with your with your nephrologist, or doctors in general. That's very important. To have that relationship with them, because what that does is, when you're the type of person, like, that's proactive, like myself, like Mr. Cook, like Alex, they see that and they notice it very quickly, which gives them that push and that urge to make sure that they put you in the right position to get a kidney, get a liver, get
Yeah.
be on the list, things of that nature, and to continue to fight with you and for you, to get to put you in those areas. And the reason why I know that personally is that I was uh, went back, had my rejection in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately was basically put on the list. Was on the list for about 4 or 5 years, and then they had to take me off because of an issue that I had with my hospital, which was their fault. I'm not gonna get all into that. Um, but my doctor knew immediately that, when I said it was not me, it wasn't me, and that I was going to continue to keep fighting and doing, what I was doing. So he's been there. I've been with this doctor for the past 13 years, because as soon as I basically got out of transplant, I made the move to uh, to adult side.
Mm-hmm.
So they called me and they were like, "Hey, you have the option of staying till you're 21,
Mm-hmm.
or making a transition now that you're 18." And I was like, "Bye." I got out of there quick. Because
Yeah.
at the time, if I'd have stayed there, who knows if I'd have been in that same position, because
Right.
the nephrologist that I had at the time, Peter, the nephrologist, we didn't have the best relationship. I won't say any name, like the type of person, but
Yeah.
um, it just wasn't. It didn't click. I mean, in my personal opinion, dealing with kids. I mean, you have kids, Alex.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think a pediatric nephrologist needs to be yelling at kid patients.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, kids don't listen when their parents yell.
No,
What
doc.
makes you think that
Mm-hmm.
they're going to listen to you when you yell?
Exactly.
And so I'm like sitting there, and honestly, I didn't listen to nothing she ever told me,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, you came in the room yelling.
Mm-hmm.
There was no work up to the yell. I can understand we talking, not hearing my answers, or liking my answers or anything like that, and your frustration is like, man, oh, he ain't getting it. I can understand that. I probably will pick up on that. But when you come in the room and my name comes out your mouth and you yelling up to here, immediately I've cut you off already.
Yep.
And so as soon as they called me with that, I was like, bye. But it was
Yeah.
probably the best decision outside of the fact that I just wanted to get away from that specific
Sure.
nephrologist.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best decision for me because it led me to my current nephrologist now. Like I said, and that guy, he's been by my side from day one.
Yeah.
He's yelled at me even as an adult one time,
Yeah.
but it was one of those times where I needed to be yelled at.
Yeah.
And I think we all had that time. We get a little bit relaxed. We think everything's
Exactly.
going well. It's not, and then he just he looked at me, and then it was like a firework went off, and I was like, it was crazy that even my dad noticed. He was like, "You ain't never got yelled out like that before. Like you've been with this dude for the longest. He's never talked to you like that." And I'm like, and that's what made me think like maybe I am doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was that love that he cared enough to yell at me when he never does,
Mm-hmm.
it made my thought process go like, maybe I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, or I need to change something or whatever. And it was actually a turning point for me in my life, because I had that relationship with him, and he was able to make that decision like, he needs to be told this, but in a firm way.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point is kind of where everything started changing for me, because like I said, I was dealing with the high PTH, phosphorus, potassium stuff, and like I said, I had my reasons for delaying the PTH, so the parathyroid removal, but he kept being persistent, because normally when people say like, no, I'm not doing this, kind of doctors just go, okay, well, you ain't gonna do it. And don't really bring it up until it gets to that point where it's like, okay, no, you need to do this,
Right.
But he was persistent. It was like same levels for a while. He was still like, no, you need to do this. And I'm like, yeah, nah, we'll wait. I'm like, no, I'm cool. Gotta go do this concert in a couple months. Can't be sitting at home resting my throat and stuff. So, but him pushing that, and it got me, like I said, I got to the point where I was just like, let's do it. And of course, he probably knew it would, regulate my phosphorus and my potassium. But I'm like, why would you not tell me that? I will throw everything that I have going on in my life right now away if that means getting me back to these right levels to put me, get me on this list. Because that was the main thing keeping me off, was I was dealing with those levels, my PTH, things like that. And I'm like, if all I got to worry about is calcium after this, I'm like,
man,
y'all can cut 18 times and I wouldn't care.
Right.
Like, let's go, let's get this done. But like I said, man, like Ms. Cook said, the rapport with your nephrologist will cause them to be persistent with the information that they tell you and pushing you, into doing the right thing. It's not something like they just like, I want you to do what I'm telling you to do. But 9 times out of 10, and I mean 9 times out of 10, it's not 100%. Doctors aren't perfect, just like we aren't.
Of course, right.
And that's why people are allowed that second opinion, to get other opinions from other doctors and things like that. But have a great relationship with your nephrologist, your cardiologist, your liver doctors and things like that, because it's what's going to be the separating factor between you getting a transplant and not even being on the list.
Right. Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, even when they make that referral for you to have evaluation, they still somewhat have to vouch for you.
Yep.
That you take your meds.
You're compliant.
You
Exactly.
go to your right. You're compliant. You're doing your blood work all the time. You're not missing appointments, and if being peritoneal dialysis, you got to bring in your records. And,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. That
Yeah.
might be just my facility, but
No, my
um,
facilities too. Yeah.
right, you got to write down what your UF is and your initial drain, and your blood
Yeah.
pressure, your weight, and
Right.
stuff like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
So it's all that stuff comes into an account, and it was recently before I made that complete change. Kind of a halfway issue with me because when I was in that in between part of not I don't want to say necessarily caring and not caring, but like when they took me off the list,
Hmm.
I was just like, oh, okay, well, doing enough to get by just about, since they took me
Hmm.
off, and like I said, but that's when my doctor comes in pushing me, and it was that in between moment where I was having those issues, and I was like, I don't really care about these records so much, and I mean, of course, I was gonna do my blood work and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That makes my appointments or whatever. But I'm like, but then it's never like that they have access to these records and stuff, right? So if you don't bring them in, that looks like non-compliance, and I'm like, then that's when the light bulb went off for me.
Hmm.
Start to make sure I
Alex,
get out my records. Huh?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Alex. How many lists are you on now, though?
Right now, just the one. I'm working with. I'm listed with the University of Kentucky, and I'm working with University of Cincinnati.
Okay.
They're evaluating me right now, but my phosphorus levels are high, and they just want to make sure I can get that under control. They like under 8, and it's at
Yeah.
13. So who knows when that's
Right.
gonna get when I get with them? But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm actively looking at. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to look at other places. We'll see. I mean, like I said, I live in an area where I could probably, if I chose to get listed, I could go to Vanderbilt in Tennessee. I
Yeah.
could go up to,
Yep.
I could go to you guys in Ohio at Columbia.
Hmm.
I go to Ohio State if I wanted to. That's just about 3 hours or so from Louisville.
Yeah, that's 3 hours.
So
Yep.
so like it's about that window. I mean, but it's just figuring out like all the testing and the time and got a family and
Right.
working and having to do all that. So I don't
Right.
know. I got to figure. I'm still trying to reevaluate where else I'm going to test or where else I'm going to kind of look to get listed.
Right. Okay. I don't have any more questions, Phil. It's all you.
Okay, I'm actually glad you asked that question about how many hospitals that he's tested at, because what's crazy, a lot of people don't know that you can be tested at more than one.
Right.
And some very important information people to know. I didn't even know until my second time. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, but like Alex said, it does take work. It takes time. It takes it takes resources to get to these places and
Hmm.
get your lab work done there and all these things too. So yes, you can get listed other places, but it does take resources. I'm just gonna say that, and it's gonna take
Hmm.
some effort because that's the things that can happen. Like I know some people at Ohio right now are on the list at Illinois, University of Illinois. So
Hmm.
these
Yeah.
things, people are getting them everywhere. I'm from Ohio, and I had mine at Johns Hopkins University.
Right.
And there's also places where there's also, and we might have to put this, into the comments because I don't know them offhand. But there's places that will do fundraisers for you also that can match dollars if you have to stay out of town or if the family has to come with you out of town. These things, they do have these things for availability. We just have to, we have to put that link up there one day, Philip,
Yeah,
so people know.
definitely. And just some that Ms. Cook are referring to. Ava Hearts, I believe, which is out here in California, they help certain like people who waiting on heart transplants and stuff like that need somewhere to stay. They may not necessarily stay close to that hospital and things of that nature. That they are around, as well as CODA. CODA helps pediatric transplant patients in those areas. Once you get in CODA, you're always a part of CODA. They help you some kind of way, which is a lot. And so the main thing that is referred to as resources for the most part in the situation, at least that we're currently talking about when it comes to multiple listings and things of that nature is money. Especially if it's not another hospital that's close to you. If it's something that's close to you, it's not as bad. So UCLA is not the closest in regards to the word close for me. It's about for me depending on traffic. No traffic is about 45 minutes. With traffic, it's like get from hour and a half.
I mean,
Uh,
before a transplant, 45 minutes isn't bad at all. Man. We're talking
right?
about
No, no,
different,
Yeah.
definitely
we're talking
correct.
about different states.
Um, but it's but for some people, depending on what kind of car they may have, they may be 16, 17-year old and their grandparents gave them their car, and they got to worry about getting XYZ place. But that's where support comes in. Being able to call somebody like, hey, I got the call, I need you to come get me, take me to the hospital, no matter where it is, or if you get they need to airlift you somewhere to get there because even the airplane ain't gonna get there in enough time. But um, money is a key thing in that. I had the thought of also because I just told Mr. Cook and a small number of other people that my doctor is now in the process of putting me back on the list because like I said, once I made that change of being consistent with a lot of things and stuff like that, with him being in my corner and me having that relationship with him, he was like, it's time. I went to him, I asked him, and he said yes. So I at the current time, the only thing for at least um, close to me is Cedar Sinai. I'm thinking about Utah area, things of that nature. Certain areas that where I know I have people, and it's not necessarily just hey, can I stay at your place when if I get this transplant, if I get on this, like it's not even that. It's just more or less to have that support. If I need somebody to drive up past the hotel or wherever I go, wherever I'm staying, like hey, you straight, or hey, you need a ride to an appointment. Things like that. Like, it's not to get over nobody or just to use or nothing like that. But, you know, one thing that we've all said, I think, a number of times, whether it's this interview or before, is that support is very important. It's the reason why they ask you this question during your evaluation. Do you have the support to help you maintain this kidney?
Yep.
Because those, we all know we've all had a transplant. Those first 2, 3, 4 months are very important in that journey because that first month, you in the appointment 2, 3 times a week for almost the first month of after having that transplant. You got appointments. If you got a kidney, you got to get stent removed, or even liver patients. We found out talking to Albert. If you end up having issues after transplant with your kidneys that go into with your liver, you gotta have a stent in there and things of that nature. So, there's those after appointments as well, outside of just going to go see your nephrologist, to make sure that your kidney is working and stuff like that you have to deal with. And that, what kind of makes it for some people a little bit, hard because it's like, okay, I got an appointment on Monday and I got one on Tuesday and then I got one on Wednesday. All right, cool. Now on Thursday, I got one on Friday, but it's needed, over time, like Mr. Cook said, even when he did it, they didn't have, peritoneal cycles at the time.
Right.
So he had to do, manual. So the evolution of the transplant world, the community has evolved a lot over the years. And so, we need to take into effect that there's a reason why it's evolved the way it's evolved. It's needed and it's important.
Yep.
And so, it's if you can find, if you go the way of listing in another area, if it's not too close to you, definitely think about, if you have loved ones in those areas, things of that nature. Most of us have at least one person that's in our family that lives in probably a different state, if not a different area of a state that's near a transplant. So, definitely take that into effect. Man, I got A lot of people that live in Texas, Arkansas, down south areas like that. I know if I 100% needed to go to Georgia, go to Florida, if nothing else, I got the support of Mr. Cook. I don't necessarily like, hey man, uh, have my transplant in Florida. I need one of them rooms in your mansion over there. Like I, I if I called him like, hey man, I just need your support. I got that. I would never call somebody just out of the blue like, hey
Hey,
man.
but if it's a kidney, whatever like that, I'm stopping what I'm doing to help anybody with that kind of maneuver. I'm gonna keep it real with you, man. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I had to go to John Hopkins from Ohio, and so I was fortunate to have a great support team, and really fortunate for them to do a fundraiser for me. Because if it wasn't for the fundraiser, who knows? But
Hmm.
I was truly blessed with that situation. But with that being said, probably in Alex's situation with the second transplant, the high titers, you're going to have to go somewhere who those hospitals that are familiar with that situation.
Right. Exactly. And Cincinnati is one of them. So, and that's the
Right.
closest one to me. So I could look at them. So yeah, there's some things that I'm gonna be
And
doing.
Ohio State is familiar with them also now.
Good to
So
know. Okay.
yeah, they're up on their game with that. And like I said, a lot of these hospitals that are teaching hospitals, University of Cincinnati is definitely a teaching hospital. So is Ohio State.
Right.
These are teaching hospitals, and they do things like that too. So
Yep. Good.
yeah,
Well,
getting a cramp in
I
my leg.
think that's
Oh.
yeah, that's not gotta get a lot of those
I hate that.
sitting here on this machine. So,
Yeah.
but I don't get in
Whoa.
my leg. I get them in the weirdest place. Nobody for some reason has ever heard of. I get mine in my foot for some odd reason. Like I'll be sitting here and all of a sudden my foot will just go whoop. I'm like, oh, and it's not the easiest
Mm,
place to stretch a cramp out of because your
no.
Right.
foot can only move so much.
Yeah.
And that's how you get a cramp or charge like that out. Like if you're using your leg, you can stretch your leg, a good amount of ways to get that out. Can't do that in your foot.
I get mine in my hands. So like I'll be all of a sudden like I'll be working and all of a sudden like this finger will go in a different direction and it's like it just looks really and it hurts and you're just trying to get
Yeah.
out that oh it's the worst.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Definitely, definitely. Well, Alex,
Yeah.
my last question for you, sir. If Miss Cook has no more,
I'm done.
um, what would you like people that are watching us now or in the future to take from your interview today?
Um, First, just to say thank you, for taking the time to listen and hear our conversation about the importance of transplant, the importance of understanding kidney disease, and knowing, what we can do to help you get the answers that you need. Like we're here to help you answer the questions and give you the support that we've been talking about. And I think it's important to just continue to do that and to continue to have these conversations um, because you just never know who you're gonna be able to affect with what the words we say and what we bring to the table. So I just say thank you very much for giving me this platform to have my conversation. Always here, feel free to look me up on Facebook, on any of the social media platforms, Twitter. Um, if you're in the Kentucky area and have questions about UK's transplant process, I don't work there anymore, but I know the process. I can kind of help you with that. And as a patient who's on dialysis, if we have any questions, you're in the area, you just want to kind of do a Zoom call or have a conversation with me, I'm available to talk. Here to help. And I really appreciate you guys giving me this time. It's been good.
Yeah, I just want to say something about Alex. He's a great resource. This man is he's living what he's talking about right now. And we've bounced information off one another off screen and everything. So he definitely is willing to help anybody that is in need for a kidney transplant, and his expertise is by far really really valuable. So thank you, Alex, man. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Alex, thank you, my man. We've had this kind of in the works, a while back,
I
and
know.
I think at the time Alex was in the process of moving and things of
Yeah.
that nature. We were gonna have him on when we did the interview. I mean the collaboration with Jonathan Traylor, but Alex was had his family was moving to where he is now. So, but tell the people, give the people your social media information and stuff like that, and
Sure.
the information that they would need if they want to test for you as well, and then send that to me, and we can put it in the description as well,
Sure.
so people can go back and get that information.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah. So my social media handle is my name, Alex Berrios on Facebook. I'm Berrios A1234 on Twitter, and that's all I have right now for my social media. But I am connected, obviously, with Why Not, and I will be sending over a link to Philip and to Firo with my website. I can't give it to you off the top of my head right now, but that has my story and has a link to the University of Kentucky's transplant program. You could go to uky.edu and then /transplant and look at some information about possible testing if you're interested. There is an online questionnaire to fill out, and we can go from there. So that's a start, and then we'll send some more later.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Appreciate your time, Alex.
Yeah, no
Cook
problem.
as
Thank you.
always. Um, Miss Cook Miss Cook probably does too, but Alex has family things he got to go take care of. Was why we got on earlier.
Yeah.
I don't mind adjusting time when it comes to things like family and stuff like that. So definitely glad we were able to make this work. For both of you. Ms. Cook, I know you got to run. You got a little bit of time to chill, but um, again, both of you, thank you. I appreciate you. Next week we'll have Lisa Aarons, also known as AJ, that is a stage 3 colon cancer survivor, coming on with us next Sunday to tell his story. Um, we might make a change, possibly. I don't really like telling people, but I like to, keep people informed as well. His wife is expecting a baby, and she's, I believe, at month 9 at the time. So, possibly can happen, today, tomorrow, next Sunday at exactly 5 o'clock on the dot. But I told him, take care of your family. That's no problem. We can definitely reschedule for the future if need be. So as of right now, that's the one that's set in place. We could possibly, like I said, be making a change. It might just be me and Mr. Cook on. Who knows? We might just, have story time or something like that. And they'll tell him. But look forward for AJ, man. I'm definitely looking forward to that interview because, I mean, I've heard a lot of strong transplant stories. I've never heard a lot of cancer stories too much. So very excited to get the educational side to that and his story as well, because you never know, with these other illnesses and the connection that they can have to transplant in some kind of way. So to get that information from directly from him is very important. So see you guys next week. Please go check out the Second Chance merch on Bonfire. The website is on the commercial if you don't mind going back, because I can't remember the exact. It's too long. I'm trying to change it right now. But recently, yesterday, we actually started our Second Chat podcast that is now on Anchor and Spotify. I'm in the process of uploading all our most of the previous audio parts of the interviews that we've had on this channel, that is still on StreamYard, that will allow me to download, and then those will be on, and then me and Mr. Cook will be in the thinking process of what more we can add to the podcast, and we'll make those announcements once we come to an answer on that. So definitely, Anchor.fm Backlash, A Second Chance, and we would appreciate your support and following, as well as following on the A Second Chance Facebook page as well that's been put up probably about a week ago. So we appreciate you for watching now, watching in the future, replay. Like I said, Alex, man, I appreciate you. We'll definitely have a follow up interview later on in the future, man, to see where you're at,
Definitely.
see how your journey is going, looking for a kidney and things like that, and if you have a date or whatever. Mr. Cook, I will see you next Sunday. I'll probably see you before then, but we'll definitely be back on here next Sunday, 8 o'clock Pacific. 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Pacific with AJ. And I appreciate y'all for being here. I will see you next week.
Bye, everybody. Thank
Cool.
you.
All right. Thank
Peace.
you, man. All right.